Welcome to the Flex Forward podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nick Espanet, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. Today, we're joined by Mel Stewart. Mel is a co-founder of SwimSwam. He's a two-time Olympian. He's done TV. He's been a TV analyst and a screenwriter, and he has a list of really neat-looking stuff that he's done. Mel, welcome. Can you let our listeners know a little more about you? And thanks for coming on today.
Hey, no, it's good to be here. I appreciate you having me. I'm two-time Olympic gold medalist, three-time Olympic medalist. One of those medals is bronze. I think one of them are behind me. I haven't seen that medal in 30 years. It's been in a box. My wife pulled it out. She said, "You got to put it. You got to put it up too."
For sure.
I told her this is the United States. We don't display our bronze medals. She laughed. She laughed.
Pretty darn impressive.
So this was in swimming, and I came out of the Olympics and worked for every single network other than CBS as an analyst in swimming, and had a show on ESPN. And I thought that I would be a sports analyst for many, many years. And then I had a minor in theater in college and wrote screenplays, and went out and had a spec screenplay go out in the 90s when the spec market was very hot. Started on a Monday, and by a Thursday, it wasn't just under $1 million. Wow. I was, with what I'd made from the Olympics, I was a millionaire, but it was the biggest payday I'd ever had. And I was convinced that I was going to be Steven Spielberg. And that coincided with a friend of mine who was also an Olympian getting the main swimming analyst job at NBC, the Olympic Network. And he got that contract. This was the late 90s. He got it through 2004. And I'm like, wow, if you can't have that seat, this isn't really a career. So I stopped everything and just leaned into screenwriting. If your listeners are old enough to remember Cato Kalin, was it Cato, right? With the I lived in a guest house in Beverly Hills, north of Sunset, and I didn't sell for 3 more years. So it was a nice realization when you're young and you're building a career of what life's going to be like, no matter how much success you've had before. And with the rise of the internet, I dipped my toe back in. I'd been writing nonstop. I'd been booking assignments in the entertainment business about every 18 months, and it was good. But I was sort of living in my underwear in my upstairs bedroom and at a small desk, churning out 1,000 pages of text a year. And I was writing big high concept movies, and development was 7 to 8 years out to produce a film. And I'm like, I looked at my wife, I said, this is sort of like training for the Olympics, but never going.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go back to my family. I was an analyst, and I think that maybe with the internet, I could do what I wanted to do with some more control. And she encouraged me to do that, and we launched SwimSwam, which is now I'm the CEO of SwimSwam. SwimSwam's the largest swimming news platform in the world. We report original news in 6 languages. We own a data company. So if you're watching the Olympics on NBC, BBC in Europe, CBC in Canada, Channel 9 in Australia, Channel 3 in France, they're reporting from our data.
Oh, wow.
So it's SwimSwam has become, it's 117 contributors worldwide, 24 hours a day we're going. We produce over 12,000 original reports per year. So it's become a big operation, and we've been in operation since 2012.
That's awesome. So are y'all streaming, or how do people get the content that you're producing? Or is it just you provide it to the networks and then they utilize your numbers?
So what we do 2 things. We do several things. As a platform, we're producing original news. It's written reports, podcasts, video interviews, and we're just covering news. It's like the ESPN of swimming.
Okay.
Basically. And because we have such an enormous news division and a content division, we needed data to do it on a timely basis. And in the Olympic world, there's the International Olympic Committee, and then underneath that are federations, World Aquatics, track and field, gymnastics. So for us, it's World Aquatics, and their data was not fast and reliable.
Okay.
And in the United States, it's USA Swimming, track and field, USA Gymnastics. USA Swimming, their data wasn't fast and reliable. We worked too quickly, so we bought a data company.
Oh, wow.
Because we bought that data company, news organizations from all over the world come to us and they rely on our data to report. So they're reporting world champs, or they'll report once every 4 years for the Olympics. We're 365 days a year. So they trust us. So that is a separate business that's a part of SwimSwam. If that makes sense.
That's very, very neat. It sounds like y'all found a really cool niche that you're really meeting the needs of the swimming community. So, being out there and people looking for, there's so many things drawing people's attention. What do you think has helped you step up and be sounds like the go-to swim news group out there? What sets you apart, or what did y'all do different that got you on more people's radar?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. We began inside of USA Swimming, the Olympic governing body of swimming in the United States. And about every decade since the 1980s, there would be an outside consultant tell USA Swimming, the Olympic arm of swimming, hey, to be dynamic, you need to generate your own media. And in the early aughts, they did that at United States Swimming, and there were 14 people. I was among the 14, and I did this inside the Olympic ecosystem, and they failed at it. It's a long story as to why they failed, but it's let's just say they failed, and my spouse turned to me and she said, they failed, and you know why. And the non-memoir version of that is, we launched our own company with a lot of that talent, and we did what they did minus the laziness.
Okay.
There you go. It's that in the private. So we were private sector. We weren't lazy. We hustled. But we also, I figured it would take us probably 2 or 3 years to get successful, like to be number one, because there were other outlets and there were other people. There was a company that had been around since 1952. And we got lucky. We were in operation for about 7 weeks. And so we had just launched. And then we went to the United States Olympic Trials, which is a large event. And I was watching our traffic and our engagement, and it was sort of going on a trajectory like this. And if you're not watching the video, I'm doing it's a slow ramp, of improvement. Mm-hmm. And one of our co-founders walked up to me, and he couldn't breathe. And we were sitting up by the pool waiting for the first event to roll off for the Olympic trials. And I said, what's wrong? And he says, the competitor, it was Swimming World magazine, they've gone to a paywall. And a paywall makes sense, Content companies want to get paid for what they do. Sure. But in my brain, I remember thinking about it, like, paywall. They want people to pay to read swimming news, and I'm like, that's not how this ecosystem works. No one's going to do that. And I opened up Google Analytics, and that soft sloping line for traffic went vertical. It went straight up. So in a moment, they handed us their audience. We became number one after 7 weeks in that one moment.
Wow. Yeah, everybody's looking for the inexpensive, or the no charge option.
The no charge, right? It was I wish I could tell you that I was a genius, but we got lucky in those first 7 weeks. And it's
and you guys work too. I mean, the Flex Forward podcast, we're talking about resilience. You had resilience to keep going after it failed. So you're in a place. There was some luck there, but it's also your hard work and resilience and persistence that got you the opportunity.
We are a company of Olympians. We are a company of people who were athletes and were, it's interesting. The profile of our company is people who swam 200 butterfly in the 400 IM, which is like the long distance decathlon of swimming. So these are people who are very, very resilient, very tough, and they were. The profile of our people they weren't elites, but they were fast enough to understand what it takes to be there, but extraordinarily hard workers. So our people grind, and yes, it was normal for these other companies to roll off maybe 600 or 700 reports. We were doing that per month at launch. So the scale of what we were doing was enormous. So yes, an enormous amount of resilience in that respect.
That's awesome. So if our listeners want to know how, like, is there anything you do to help yourself get better or improve? Any self-improvement suggestions or books, podcasts, just something you do personally that if the listeners, something you can pass along to them?
I'm a reader. Most of what I consume a lot of content. In terms of what I do, I'll tell you this. My most valuable asset has been I have an unofficial board of mentors, and it's kind of easy to have an unofficial board of mentors in the sport of swimming. We've produced a lot of billionaires. We've produced a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, and they would not choose the lifestyle that I have because it's frankly it's a little bit small, it's a little niche, but they do love the success in this one area, and it feeds something that they care about. So they're very happy to help at no cost and just mentor Mel. And that has been unique in that, problems arise all the time. We're always dealing with what businesses deal with. And there has never been a problem where I've thought to myself, I haven't experienced this before. How do I manage this? And I've gone to my network, my unofficial board of mentors, and the answer wasn't immediate. I didn't have it. I had it. I didn't have to wait a day. It's just there. That's been enormous.
That's awesome. And I think that's just networking, having a connection or having people that lift you up and can lift you up when needed around you is so important when you're doing that in any career. So what is one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your even current career or even any of your past experiences?
I'm somebody who, when I was a kid, I was the second youngest guy on the Olympic team. And I had a really fast trajectory. I represented Team USA for 12 years, and I went to 2 Olympics. But that first Olympics that I went to, I failed. I went into that Olympics as the young upstart, and I was ranked second in the world, which should have given me, a silver medal. But if I'd continued on the trajectory that I've been moving since I was 15 years old, I was 19 by the first Olympics, I should have silvered or won.
Sure.
And the reality is that I got scared. There was a whole lot of factors that hit me, but like a big part of it was I wasn't focused. I had always been extremely focused and highly successful, but the entire pageantry of the Olympics and the scale of it drained me. It was just too much information. I was too young. I couldn't manage it. And the actual stage, the Olympic stage, and competing on that stage was too much. And I got scared. I got 5th place. And I had to overcome that loss. And what it taught me was that a loss is the aftermath of that loss, and overcoming and processing and building their confidence back up. That trajectory took too long. It took me almost 2.5 years. It took me 2.5 years to come back from that, and then swim that person again who won at that Olympics. His name was Michael Gross. Beat him, break his world record, retire him in that race. Nice. It took a long time to get back to that. It took an enormous amount of energy. And so in business, if there is a mistake, my first reaction is, what do I learn from this? This is always valuable data. And then how can I start being successful immediately to change that trajectory? And that served me really well.
That's good stuff. And that's what we're wanting to pass along on the Flex Forward podcast, is just having that resilience. If you get knocked down, get up and dust yourself off and evaluate and say, what can we learn? So that's great information. Thanks for passing that along. So it sounds like things are going pretty well in your business. And for you, just a lot of people start having more success. They start thinking of potentially looking at the future and maybe thinking about passive income and ways to enhance their current income. If you have any thoughts on passive income versus active income?
We're always looking at ways to use the current platform that we have in this ecosystem that we've created, and we have created an ecosystem to roll off digital tools or any sort of businesses that make money in the background. My goal is always to make money while I'm sleeping. I want to. I'm somebody who I resist vacations and I resist time off. But every time I've taken any time off or any vacation, it seems like money just flows in like a fire hydrant. But that's because of the work on the front end. But I'll give you one example. We started years ago being pestered by people who wanted us to post their jobs. And that's a very big deal if you're in the community of swimming. And there's a club. There's nearly 3,000 swimming clubs in the United States. They're just taking the United States because we're a global business, but this is probably U.S. focused. If that's one team loses a coach, they're kind of in a panic. So when people started reaching out to say, run that job, we would do it for free. And once we did it once, everyone asked for it. So there was a period of time where I was just posting these as a courtesy. And I got angry and I'm like, we're going to charge for this. And then when we started charging for it, it still became a pain in the butt. It was. And then we automated it. And we started charging more money. We started doubling the rate. And now we're the largest jobs platform in the world in aquatic sports. And that runs in the background and it's automated. And it's so I get phone calls from Indeed. They're like, we're going to buy you. And I go, well, that's a tiny piece of our business.
Yeah.
You know? That's just one piece of our business that runs in the background. How much you want for it?
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a lot. So we're looking at I should say this. There's because anytime you're launching a business today, you're standing on the shoulders of everybody that stood before you. Sure. And you have to take that into account. And so we're able to, if you're entering an entrepreneurial space now, you can move so much faster. So we always have to I always think like I'm entering the business now because I know somebody else that's thinking that way.
Yeah. Starting there. Awesome. Great stuff. So as for wrapping up the interview, do you have any exciting plans or initiatives in the works for the next 6-12 months? For us, we're, if you are an Olympic fan and you're listening to this, we have to think through that lens. We have a historic moment coming up. The Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles in 2028. If any of your listeners are old enough to remember the 1984 Olympic Games, it was a very successful Olympics, and it did a whole lot for the market and the ecosystem, which people probably don't think about unless you're a business in that ecosystem. Sure. And we are. So yes, we are rolling off more digital businesses in the background that support that apparatus on the run up to the LA 2028 Olympic Games. So in the next 6 months, right now, the only visible thing you're going to see is we're doing long form interviews in podcast formats. Okay.
But something that we hadn't done before was we only talked to a national champion or Olympic champions or, the Swedish national champion. Now we are extrapolating out to talking to club owners and the biggest entrepreneurs in the sport. And what we've learned in our ecosystem is that people want to hear from the person who is successful in business as much as they want to hear from somebody who won a gold medal. And
that's interesting.
It's a little bit surprising. So that's something that you'll see a whole lot more from us.
Well, I'll have to, I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, so I'll definitely watch that stuff is coming out. So that's awesome. Mel, thank you so much for joining today and sharing tips and insights with our listeners. If people would like to get in contact with you, what's the best way to go about that or connect with your magazine, your organization?
The best way to reach me is through LinkedIn and in terms of business, and I'm pretty engaged there. The other place to reach me is if you come to SwimSwam.com and you email the site, it's going to come to a dozen people, but it comes to my inbox too. And so I'm one of the most accessible people in Olympic sport, and they all reach me through the website, SwimSwam.com.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope everything's going well. And good 2.5 years for the Olympics, right? Getting
Let's
close.
go. Go Team USA.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.